Have you ever looked at a math problem and thought about ancient history? It's kind of a weird combination, right? Well, today we're diving into a really fascinating case study that does exactly that, blending math, stories, and faith in a way you probably wouldn't expect. So let's deconstruct how it all works.
So let's just ask it straight up. What on earth could King David, the ancient ruler of Israel, possibly have in common with a 6th grade math class? I know, it sounds like the setup to a really strange joke, but the answer actually reveals a very clever and very deliberate teaching strategy.
And that connection is found in a curriculum that just refuses to keep these subjects in separate boxes. Instead, it uses each one to kind of unlock the other.
Now, just to be super clear, we're not here to learn 6th grade math, so don't worry. We're here to analyze the method. We're looking at how this lesson uses these familiar narratives to make a pretty abstract concept, mathematical proportions, feel concrete, relatable, and way more memorable. It's an amazing case study in connecting new knowledge to a student's existing worldview.
Okay, so before we get into the stories, let's do a real quick refresher, just to make sure we're all on the same page about the core math concept we're talking about here. What exactly is a proportion?
The crucial thing to get here is that proportions are all about balance in relationships. Think of it this way. If you know that 2 apples cost you $1, a proportion is just the math tool that helps you figure out, okay, so what would 10 apples cost? It's just a simple equation that keeps that relationship, that apples to dollars ratio, totally consistent whether the numbers are scaling up or scaling down.
And here's where the lesson gets really smart. It uses this fantastic little pedagogical trick. It frames proportions as teamwork. I love that. It takes a kind of dry, abstract mathematical rule and makes it feel relational, collaborative. When one number on the team changes, its partner has to adjust in a totally predictable way just to keep everything balanced. It just works.
Okay, so we've got the concept down. Now let's get to the heart of the method, seeing how these famous, well-known stories are translated directly into solvable math equations.
Let's use the story of Queen Esther's banquet as a case study. The lesson first sets up a really simple ratio. 3 trays of food for every 12 people. Boom. That's our known relationship. Then the question introduces a new number, 9 trays. By setting up the proportion, 3 is to 12, as 9 is to x, the student can solve for that unknown value. See? The story provides the whole context, but the logic is pure math.
And this method isn't just a one-off thing either. The curriculum applies this exact same structure to all sorts of other figures and stories. You've got David's soldiers, establishing a ratio of guards to gates. You've got Paul's missionary journeys, creating a ratio of miles traveled to cities visited. The narrative changes, but the mathematical process, that stays exactly the same, which is a great way to reinforce the skill through repetition.
But there's more going on here than just some creative math problems. The lesson is really trying to connect the mathematical concept to a deeper thematic idea. A bigger lesson, you could say. This Bible verse is presented as the thematic anchor for the entire lesson. It's all about mutual encouragement, about growth. So the question becomes, how does a verse about building each other up connect back to mathematical proportions? And this is where the two ideas just lock together perfectly. The lesson draws a direct parallel. On one side, you have the math. As one value goes up, its related value goes up in a predictable, balanced way. And on the other side, you have the theme. As our encouragement for one another increases, our collective strength grows in a similar proportional way. The math literally becomes a metaphor for the moral. It's pretty brilliant. So how does the lesson make sure this dual message actually sticks with the students? Well, by weaving it into every single homework problem. I mean, just look at these homework examples. It's not just 5 widgets fit in 10 boxes. No way. It's 5 candles light 10 rooms, which evokes this idea of light and guidance. It's 3 prophets preach in 9 villages, which evokes the spread of a message. Every single problem is like its own little mini parable, constantly reinforcing that connection between the calculation and the narrative world of the source material. So what's the big takeaway here? Well, regardless of the subject matter, this case study just reveals a really powerful teaching technique. It anchors an abstract, logical concept, proportions, in a foundation of familiar stories. And for its intended audience, this narrative framework makes the math not just something to be solved, but something that's actually meaningful.
And it all leaves us with this final, much broader question. What happens when we explicitly link our learning to a belief system, whether it's faith or a philosophy or a cultural narrative? How does connecting what we learn to what we believe change our understanding of both? It's a fascinating question about how we all make sense of our world. Thanks for tuning in.